All right, hold on. Make sure I got my notes right in front of me. All right. Hey, Joyful Journeyer, Anita Adams here, your host. And today I'm so pleased to introduce you to Morgan Rockwell. Morgan is a spiritual coach and a certified Akashic Records practitioner and healer. She works with the Akashic Records primarily to assist others in mending their broken hearts, bringing more love and joy into their lives so they can create a life aligned with their heart's inner calling. When I learned about Morgan's ability to read the Akashic Records, I invited her as a guest to the show so she can teach us a little bit about this ancient practice. So welcome, Morgan. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I value your time. I value this gift that you have. And I have to tell our listeners that I had such a beautiful opportunity to actually just work with Morgan before doing this interview. She did an Akashic reading on me, and it was very profound and so interesting. So thank you for that gift, and for the gift of your time to share more of your wisdom with our audience. Welcome.
Thank you so much for that lovely welcome. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm really, really just overjoyed you enjoyed your reading experience too.
It was super cool. I've never done anything like that before. So this is my first exposure to the Akashic Records and to having a reading like that, and it was really profound. And you've given me a lot to think about, and I continue to be mystified by what is our world, what's in this universe, what's possible, the infinite possibilities for ourselves, and the wisdom that we can tap into. And I just find it so beautiful and rich. So I want to start somewhere fairly basic, I suppose, because I didn't, and I still don't fully get, what are the Akashic Records? Can you describe that so I can have a better understanding? And I imagine there's a few other people out there that are kind of wondering too, like what exactly are the Akashic Records?
Absolutely. And I love that you actually stated part of my definition in your previous couple of sentences. So the Akashic Records are an energetic field of infinite possibilities. And so every deed, thought, action from the inception of your soul is recorded in the Akashic Records. The story goes that they were written by Metatron, and he was an angel who is the right hand of God. And the reason Metatron wrote them is he was also human. So he understands humanness. And so he can relate the Akashic Records in terms our human brain can receive. So within the Akashic Records, it is just this beautiful field of infinite possibilities where we can go in and you can seek guidance about any and all areas of your life. For example, you can ask about, hey, I'm starting a new business, like I'm thinking about this direction. Which direction is most aligned for me? What are the next steps I need to take? Or as I work with a lot of people mending broken hearts, they're trying to navigate their way maybe through a separation or through a divorce, and are wanting to look at some steps and places that they can go to ease their suffering, bring some more joy into their life, maybe where they can get a new job. The sky's the limit. You can ask all sorts of questions within the records.
Okay, so it's almost like I have this visual in my mind that there's this space out here around us that all these records and possibilities are in, and we can just kind of reach in and almost grab them and get information. Like I see, like, I guess it's the word records, like it's something written that is pulled down, and it's like where you're reading, you're accessing it. This is what this record says. Is that, am I?
Yeah, they're often referred to as a library. Like they're often depicted as a very archaic library or a beautiful gold book, right? And right now the veil is so thin, I believe everyone can access their records. Knowing the way to get in to access your records, where you're speaking with the authentic guardians, the highest light vibration guardians of the records, is where it becomes really important to make sure you're establishing a really clean and clear connection, and getting that clear and accurate information from your records.
Okay, you said something just now that I have to question. You said right now the veil is so thin. What do you mean?
Yeah, so like back in ancient times, to access the records, you had to be a shaman, somebody with really intrinsic psychic powers, innate, spiritually very evolved, right? Nowadays, that veil that has held those other energetic realms above us is very thin. So a lot more people are awakening to their intuitive or psychic abilities, and this includes accessing the records. And to give you a little more clear picture, so we're all pretty familiar with like fortune tellers or getting, your palm read, or that old, picture of a psychic with a crystal ball. Most psychics do not read from the realm of the Akashic, and they're going to give you a predictive reading. They're going to say things like, well, I see you being married in a couple of years or getting a new car, these type of things. Well, working from these higher realms, it's a very interactive experience. And so reading from this is more based upon your very specific soul's choices to evolve.
Okay, and interesting. You landed on the word evolve because I was going to ask: is the veil thinner now because we as a species have evolved more and we have a heightened awareness? Is that what you're saying?
I think it goes both ways. The veil is more thin because we are more evolved, and we are evolving more because the veil is thinner. And
Okay.
so we're really being called to step up to this call of action to evolve. Our souls are, this sort of universal call to evolve is happening.
That's exciting. And I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
do. I
so
really,
exciting.
yeah, I feel it. I feel it. There is a greater awareness, a heightened awareness about the possibilities, about who we really are and our
Yeah,
connection to source and or God or whatever that word is for you,
sure.
which is really it gives me hope. It gives me hope for our future, and
It
for our
does.
world. So
And part of it is the way we have evolved, like you're saying, as a human race, right? So we're not necessarily living to survive any longer. Sure, we all have periods where we're kind of stuck in survival mode or things are harder than others. But in reality, we have developed so much technology. We're not hunting for our food. We have all of this extra time to grow in a way that maybe some of our ancestors did not, because they were busy doing things that now we have some sort of assistance with. Does that make sense?
it does make sense, and that's a really interesting and positive spin on the advancement of technology. Because often I think
Mhm.
that the advancement of technology is slowing us down spiritually or getting in the way spiritually. But you're saying something quite different. You're saying the advancement of technology is enabling us to have more time so we can work on our spiritual growth. I like that. And I am hearing you correct in what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And if you look at it from the other side of the coin, like you can reach more people too. I love doing guided meditations as recorded, and people can listen to them and receive that healing. I can access a number of people. I can share that healing with however many people want to download it for free, rather than seeing one person at a time for a few, hours of my day. And I feel like technology definitely has its downside, but it can also accelerate this evolution if we intend to use it in that way.
Right. That makes perfect sense. I love that. So can anyone access the Akashic Records?
I believe so. And my teacher is a firm believer of that. Again, it's about understanding how to get into it and best spiritual practices. You have to obviously abide by spiritual laws. And so it's not only about developing your spiritual gifts. If that makes sense, it's not, because spiritual gifts are not the end goal. They are a byproduct of us evolving and doing our work and connecting with source or God, whatever your word is, in a different way. And that byproduct is those spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
And so the more you do your work and understand those laws and begin to embody that, those gifts begin to open up.
Yeah. I believe that too.
Mhm.
Something that I really enjoyed in the reading that you and I did, and I think it's really important in so many other areas of our life. Is so when Morgan sat with me, she got me to close my eyes, take some deep breaths, and walk me through a beautiful little visualization process. But the goal was to get to my heart center,
Mhm.
to really find that openness and the expansion in the heart. And that's when you can receive, if I'm interpreting this correctly, that's when you can receive and be open to the messages and open to sharing, I guess, with you and accessing the Akashic records. And I find that really interesting because I talk about that a lot myself,
Mhm.
and accessing inner wisdom, and tapping into that space within, that source within us. In order to do that, we have to have an open and expansive heart. And then to hear you talk about that, to access the Akashic records, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it comes down to that. It's always about, well, and the heart is that space of love, right? That
It's
openness and
true.
willingness. Yeah.
And it's really beautiful you mentioned that, because we often think about accessing higher information and higher realms through our head, right? Like that third eye chakra, the crown chakra, it's very depicted in that fashion. But that sacred space that you can call your heart, we call your heart space. And it is just below your heart chakra and above your solar plexus. That's the sweet spot. And that is considered the sacred seat of your soul. So when you are there, that's how you can access your Akashic records. That's how you can access your inner wisdom. And it's a place we tend to avoid based on not wanting to feel through life sometimes, or detaching from something that maybe doesn't feel uncomfortable, or we flip into reaction mode, right? And so even just breathing, anytime you think about it and sitting in that space, is going to ground you and center you. If you have to have a difficult conversation with your boss or a loved one, come from your heart space, and you're going to be allowing that inner wisdom from your soul to be coming through the conversation and assist you in coming out of reactive mode or going into fight or flight. It's just a beautiful tool that anyone can use all day long, every day that they think about it.
Can you walk us through your process to accessing that heart space?
Yeah, and it can be very simple. I know, if you want, I can walk you through what we did for the reading.
Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah, okay.
helpful.
This is
Yeah.
like a little bit more complex, but we'll just
Okay.
go ahead and do it, and everyone can just close their eyes.
Okay, let me
If you're
let me just
driving,
premise, if you are listening to this and driving, put it on pause.
that's what I was just saying. I was like, if you're driving or operating heavy machinery,
Yeah,
let's go ahead and come back to this. I say that in
exactly.
front of all of my
And
meditations. So
everybody else, listen to Morgan and
yeah.
we'll walk through this process. Okay.
Great. So those of you in a safe space, go ahead and just get yourself comfortable. You can sit down, you can lie down, whatever feels right and true for you. Go ahead and just close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, just imagine, sense, or feel your energy start to sink down into your heart space. And that heart space is located at the tip of your sternum, right where the ribs begin to split. That's nestled between the heart chakra and below the heart chakra and above the solar plexus. Just imagine taking a cozy seat in your heart space. Then from up above, you're going to sense, feel, imagine a giant bucket of golden source energy. And as that bucket tips, it's going to spill down to the crown of your head, through the crown chakra, through your third eye. It's going to work its way down your face, through the throat chakra. It's going to work its way down the front of your chest, down your back. It's going to pool in your heart space and just wrap around you like it's giving you a big hug. It's going to continue down your torso, through your lower chakras, down your legs, and down to the bottom of your feet. As it reaches the bottom of your feet and the tips of your toes, it's going to activate your grounding roots that are coming out of the bottom of your feet. And these roots are going to work their way down through every layer of the earth's crust, down, down, and they're going to connect into the molten core of the earth. This is Mother Earth's heart chakra. And Gaia, or Mother Earth, is going to send up a beautiful crystalline elixir, a pink rose quartz. It's going to come up through the roots, all the way through the earth, back up into your feet, where it's going to work its way up your legs, through your hips and torso, and it's going to reach your heart space, and it's going to pool and mix with the great source energy and wrap itself all around you. And go ahead and sit and continue to breathe, knowing that you are protected and connected, as above, so below, 360 degrees all around.
Beautiful.
Mm.
It's very grounding. And what does that take, like 2 minutes to
Oh,
do?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a quick process. And even if you don't feel you have those 2 minutes, even just 2 or 3 breaths to get down into that heart space, and imagine yourself just sitting. You can sit in a lotus flower, you can sit on the floor, you can sit, just take that cozy seat and just get yourself really connected to that heart space.
Yeah.
It shifts the energy really quickly.
It does shift the energy quickly, doesn't it? That's a beautiful practice. I like your suggestion to use that if you're ever entering into a difficult situation, to help get you grounded, to help get you centered, and in operating from that heart center, that place of love. I often tell my clients to pause and choose love, when they're making a choice, whatever the choice is, to ask, what would love choose? This would be a great exercise to help you get to that place of centering in your heart, and then asking, what would love choose in this situation?
Yeah, and it does help us connect us into our own power, which gives us a little bit more confidence. Often when we're entering in a difficult conversation or situation, it's easy to step out of our power because we're afraid, or we're nervous, or we don't feel we are good enough to accomplish whatever is in front of us. And so really connecting back just gives a little support behind you.
Yeah, beautiful, and super easy to do. Super easy. Thank you for walking us through that. And I'm actually gonna practice that a little bit more when I go into nature. I'm gonna try the experience when I'm outside on my nature walks, and because I like the idea of feeling the earth come up through my feet and into my body too. It's a lovely visual, a really lovely
Yeah.
visual. So thank
And
you
it
for
helps you to be connected above and below. It's really, and it's that
that.
great I am is that masculine, represents the masculine, and then Mother Earth obviously is the feminine. So really feeling connected and balanced is a
Yeah,
nice.
very cool. Good. Okay, coming back to the Akashic Records, something that you did in our reading was ask for permission. And I had to give my name, and then we had to ask for permission. Can you tell me a little bit more about why that's important?
It's part of the like the sacred spiritual laws, right? Like everyone's records are their own privacy. And so you need to have permission in order to read their records. And I think that's really beautiful. That's not to say, I have lots of intuition. I get hits around people all the time. I might get vision. I might get a knowing. I might hear something. And I just become a curious observer when that happens, because I'm really not going to relay any information unless I have their permission. And I think that keeps things very high vibrating. It allows a lot of trust between the practitioner and the person who is getting a reading or a healing. It allows that, it just has a bridge of trust.
So you as a practitioner are asking for permission from my spirit guides to access my soul records. Is that correct?
Yes, so the records have what's called the guardians, and the guardians are ascended masters, ascended teachers, and loved ones. And loved ones can be any past loved ones that you've had in your ancestral lineage or your soul lineage. And they all have to be of the highest light and vibration in order to hold space, because the records are so sacred. And so we call them the masters, teachers, and loved ones. I find that to be a mouthful. So I just call them the guardians of the records. So I'm asking permission from the guardians to access your records with your permission.
Right.
And they're the ones that allow that to happen. And so when I'm in your records, I'm speaking with them to facilitate a conversation with you.
Yeah. Okay. So if I wanted to access my records on my own, say I developed that ability to do that, would I have to ask for permission as well? Okay. So
You
I'm
ask
still
your guardians permission to open your records to
okay.
receive love, support, and whatever. And
Okay.
so, yeah.
Okay. Very, very interesting. And when you get the information, how do you know it's coming from the guardians and not just your imagination?
Right. So again, this takes a lot of trust. And in the beginning, you're going to feel like when you're getting your own intuitive hits, like you're making it up. And I often tell people, if you feel like you're making it up, you know it's from your guides.
If you feel like you're making it up, you know it's from your guides?
Yeah, because we tend to question things that resonate, that just come to us so quickly. The actual definition of intuition is without reason. So without reason is in the definition. And so we can't explain it. And then all of a sudden our mind wants to jump in and say, hey, wait, I need to rationalize this. This doesn't make any sense. We all receive information in different ways. Some of us see it, some of us hear it, some of us just know it. Most of us feel it. Imagine you walk into a room and you can just understand the vibe, right? You're like, wow, this is great. These are my people. Or you walk into a dark alley and you're like, get me out of here. That's that intuition speaking through clairsentient. You can have smell and taste. Those are less common. So really understanding the way your intuition is speaking to you is kind of the first step, because we're all intuitive beings. And then the second is to trust your intuition. And that can be a very difficult process, because often the things that have burnt us in life, that have caused us pain or suffering, didn't happen because somebody did them to us. It's because we didn't listen to our intuition around a situation. And so we tend to not trust ourselves. As far as like me accessing the Akashic Records, it's like anything, a meditation practice. It takes time and practice to understand when you're connecting. And so like my guides sound very different than your guides, who sound very different than somebody else's guides. So you begin to understand how everyone's guardians work and how they relay information to you. And I know my channels of how information comes in. And so if something's coming in a way that I'm not expecting, I will check in and say, hey, is this really coming from the records? Where is this coming from? And so really just cultivating that relationship with your records, with your intuition, is how you're going to build that trust back again.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, do you feel like you have a spirit guide that works with you all the time to access the Akashic records, or are you dealing with different guides every time you go in?
No, so like I have spirit guides that I work with outside of the records, and then I have a very specific way I work in the records. But if I want to pull in somebody else, if I want to talk to Isis or Buddha or Jesus, and I want them to come in and guide me, you can call them in. So we all have our own guides. And then a lot of people love working with angels. A lot of people love working with Archangel Metatron or Archangel Michael, Raphael, whomever. You can call them in and start to work on your relationship with them too. I think a lot of people get hung up like, oh, do I have guides? I don't know who they are. I don't know,
Yeah.
And it's not so much about identifying them, but understanding how they're speaking to you. And that's where you can start playing with on your own. Like, show me how you're giving me signs.
Right.
We ask for signs all of the time. And we either want like a shinier sign or something that's brighter and bigger, rather than
neon.
understanding neon, like this is it, we want it all written out for us. And I'm even guilty of that still with all of my ability to access the records and things. Sometimes like I just really, and so like my guardians will play with me and I'm like, okay, I really need to know if this is the correct thing. Send me an ambulance by and let it have its sirens on in the next day, like, or something like that in the next few hours. Get real specific with the sign you want.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And so,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, start playing with your guides about how they're showing you information and signs.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a question about the work you do and what I'm doing with when I access my spirit guides. Like I think I've shared with you that I do some spiritual writing, and I
Mhm.
sit down and I'm always so reluctant to use the word channel. It just
You do
sounds,
channel.
it feels awkward to say that. Like, I believe we all have this ability to communicate
Totally.
directly. Um, so, and channel, I guess for me, sounds is a word that I feel like people who have been gifted a specific thing
Sure.
to do
Mhm.
this, and I just have a discomfort with the word, and I know I need to own this
Yeah.
process and be proud that I've developed an ability, but I think we can all develop that ability. Anyways, I'm derailing myself. What I wanted to ask is what I'm doing with my spiritual writing is that am I actually accessing the Akashic records when I do that, or is that different?
It's a little bit different in the fact that unless you can have an innate ability to access your records, and that isn't to say if you haven't formally opened them, you can receive information. And I see you personally sometimes getting records from your information from your records. And what I'm hearing to tell you to call it is you are not channeling, you are advocating for your subconscious mind.
Okay.
That's
I am
like,
advocate. I can accept that. I am
yeah.
advocating for my
And they're like,
subconscious
tell her
mind.
advocating for a subconscious mind. I'm like, okay, so what you're doing when you're writing is you move that conscious mind out of the way by keeping it busy. And so information from your subconscious mind is connected to your higher self, which is connected to your soul, which is all this information is recorded into the Akashic records. So as you develop, it's like any sort of muscle, right? You have to continue. Your spiritual writing is a practice. You have to do it in order for it to continue to flow and to gain more insights and to access that subconscious mind more rapidly and get more information from it. And so, yes, I believe there are bits that come through there from your Akashic records without having to go through a formal process of opening them and
Right.
closing them.
Okay, interesting. And I do have actually a formal process, and that
Mhm.
includes, giving thanks first and then inviting specific spirit guides to
Mhm.
be with
Absolutely.
me and guide me. So, yeah.
And it's that's your process, and it does, your guides are of high vibration. They are giving you information from the Akashic records. And that's very beautiful that you've had that spiritual tool developed and that gift is coming out in you.
Yeah, it is really, it's beautiful. And I feel the veil is lifting more and more the more I do it. And I again, I think it's something that we can all develop by putting
Yes.
the time into that, and allowing, opening your heart, like you were
Mhm.
talking about. Like, that's such a beautiful practice to enable, to be able to receive,
Mhm.
So very
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
I can see like that whole heart-centered thing, and I totally get now why you specialize in working with people that have had broken hearts, because it's hard to open your heart when it's been broken. And
Yeah.
so it's a beautiful gift you're giving to people by helping them to open that heart space so that they can receive, and you being a guide with them on that journey. So beautiful. I'm glad there are people like you in the world that are offering those kind of services, because it doesn't, it's not easy when you've had a broken heart. It's not easy to allow that space, and it makes it a lot easier when you've got a caring soul like yourself to create the space, and the safety to do that. I felt when we did our exercise, I felt like I was in really good hands, in loving hands, caring hands, and that so much more was coming through because you are creating this space for your clients. And it's just it's a beautiful gift to be able to do that, and that is something that I don't think everybody can well, they can do, but you've developed the ability, you have that innately in you, that ability to create space for others, to enable more to be received. So it's beautiful.
Thank you so much. And I just feel so blessed to be in this work because I mean, I think it's something we humans all have in common. I think throughout anybody's life, at one point or another, something has caused their heart to be broken, something or someone. And it's sad to see people who do go through the rest of their life with that wall around their heart or with a bit of a block up, or they don't maybe necessarily allow themselves to connect with a love that really serves them, even in a form of self-love. And just going through my own journey of struggling through that, I thought, hey, if I can reach the point where I'm at with all I've been through, certainly other people will benefit from this as well.
Yeah. So what is your journey actually? What got you into the Akashic Records doing this work?
So it was a moment in my life where I really didn't know what to do. I was in a very difficult situation. I was in a marriage that turned pretty unsupportive and pretty toxic. And I was married to somebody in their country of birth, but it was not my country. And through the evolution, my children were born in this particular country as well. And so coming up to how am I going to separate and remain, like I still would see the rest of my life. And I'm like, well, I deserve to be happy. This can't go on forever. I'm feeling very trapped and like a prisoner here. This is not what I want for me. But I have these two little people that I have to care for. And wow, we live in two different countries. And so I could not seek enough of somebody else's opinion and feel comfortable about basing decisions for my life on other people's advice. Not even a really great psychic reading could help me. And I thought, you know what? I really need to figure out a way to turn in more deeply. And I've always been interested in the Akashic Records. And I came across who is my current teacher now. Then she runs courses. She teaches people how to get into the Akashic Records. And I thought, you know what? It's my time to step up and build this trust within myself, because I have lost every bit of trust of myself when I kind of woke up in this situation. You know, I kind of fell asleep at my life through all of these things, these changes that had taken place. And so I was able to utilize the Akashic Records to give me kind of like a how-to get out of this in a very safe, in a very loving way that was in the highest good for all of us involved. And it didn't take the course that I had first hoped, but now I see that that makes sense. And there's still more to unfold. Like, so I'm still living here in Portugal, where my boys were born and their father is. And that is, you know, I had wanted to go home to the US, but in the end of the day, I really can see, and that was one of the first things the guardians showed me when I found out I couldn't get home, was just the beauty of how it would turn out with me being here, even though it felt like anything but beautiful. And so having that faith and trust in what the Akashic Records had done for me up until that point, I was able to heal through that moment more quickly. And then I've been able to utilize that to continue to heal, because the transition, there's always the before the event, and then the after. And these three phases really need to be addressed as far as healing is concerned in order to move forward fully and open your heart up again to love. Otherwise, we can be very closed down. And it was just always a goal of mine to move forward with an open heart and to live my life aligned with my soul's purpose and to the fullest. And I couldn't do that feeling so broken inside about all of these external circumstances. And so I have managed to do that. And I'm still on my way of how this is going to all unfold, and learning more every month that goes by, every day that goes by, every week that goes by. And I was just really called to write out my story and look back and say, hey, wow, I really know there's lots of people that can benefit from this. And so I jumped ship. I had been in, I used the Akashic Records only for myself, but I had been in traditional Chinese medicine with a fertility specialist for years and years and years. And so I've gone fully into just working to assist others in mending their broken heart.
Wow, that's really, really powerful, and it is a big leap of faith to jump out from one career path and into something else. But it sounds to me like you were listening to that guidance to do that, and when you listen to that guidance, there's a confidence that comes with it too. Even though sometimes self-doubt comes in, like that, like we were talking earlier, I get waves of the self-doubt. And yet I know I'm on the right path. And it's because of that inward looking journey and connecting with what I like to call my soul voice. And it sounds like the work that you're doing is also the work that you've done personally is about connecting to that wisdom, whether it's the Akashic records wisdom, the wisdom within, whether those are one of the same or connected. I think they're certainly connected.
They're like, yeah.
Yeah, they're linked. And there's a lot of empowerment in that, when you learn to do that. And I love that you're teaching people how to access that space of openness and love and find the answers from within. Find the answers.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that happens from a broken heart is our source of love gets really displaced.
Yeah.
And myself specifically, but many people that I have come across weren't necessarily taught from the get-go that the source of love is always within us. And so really assisting others in building those internal foundations like you're talking about, regardless of what you call it. When you have those internal foundations built with your own source of love, your own, guides, whatever you want to call it, your own spirit voice, as you do your writing, like you begin to trust that more, and you're going to trust yourself more. And so by really reconnecting that internal source of love repairs trust very deeply. And that's more is what allows us to move forward in love than just bringing in more love, is we really need to have that deep trust repaired on a foundational level.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And you become unshakable.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's so much happening in our lives and in the world that can make us shakeable, that can rattle us.
Yes.
When you tap into that, when you have that foundation, you become unshakable.
You do. And it's really beautiful because no matter what's coming through, your world is not going to be shattered to bits again in the same fashion it was, because you have this foundation under you that didn't exist before.
Exactly. So how would somebody work with you? Like, what would that look like? Is it, do you do, you obviously do readings with people. So is it mostly one-offs, or do you have programs that you offer? Like, walk us through what kind of services you offer.
Sure. So I have a myriad of services, and I generally don't do only readings. I typically do healings.
Okay.
From the Akashic Records. I will do readings for people, but I don't feel like you get, like me telling you have patterns you need to heal is not the same as me bringing you through a healing and healing those patterns right there in the moment. That's going to be a completely different, like, shifting experience. So I do a lot of free stuff. So you have free audio healings, like I was talking about, activations where you can just listen to and receive those healings. I'll do a lot of masterclass series on different categories around assisting mending your broken heart. And then I usually have like some smaller offers. The one that I've been working with recently, which is kind of a little bit in the advantage of spring energy, but also really necessary for those who are ready to just kind of like begin their healing journey and really jumpstart it. It's doing a love journey clearing and recalibration. So we kind of clear out any trauma, anything associated with their previous love journey, which is the sum total of events that have contributed to how you give and receive love up until the point, and reconnect that love source again. But then I do predominantly like coaching. So I'll do like, I have like a big 6-month program, because when you go through a very world shattering situation, it didn't happen overnight and you're not going to repair it overnight. And so I tried to build different tiers in there based on my own personal experience. Like I would have loved to have somebody hold my hand for 6 months after I had, my world fell apart to bits, you know?
Yeah.
But for the people who are wanting to do it bits at a time, because let's face it, healing a broken heart can be really scary. And so when a pattern comes up and something's ready to be healed, great, let's do it. And then if they need some time, then the next layer is going to come up and they're willing to look at that. And so the more people are able to do one little layer at a time and build that trust, like you're saying, you need to have a trust with somebody in order to receive healing from them. I typically have people go like smaller clearings, healings, and then they'll go into like a longer package.
Right. Wonderful. And how would anybody listening to this connect with you if they wanted to book a session or learn more about your
Yeah, so my
programs?
website's super easy. It's morganrockwell.com. And at the moment, it's not a fancy site, but it's got all of the ways that they can work with me and all of the things available. I try and be pretty proactive about putting all my events on that page too, but Facebook is another really great place to find me. And that's Morgan Rockwell 111 at facebook.com or whatever the Facebook handle is. Just my name with 3 1s behind it. And you'll get a lot of the free access to the masterclass there, different specials I'm running, and things like that. I do a lot of free healings on there.
Okay, awesome. We'll include those links in the show notes. I have to ask, and I've heard this before, that ones are really important. What's the significance of 3 1s?
Yeah, so that is just like that, your angel guide speaking to you, right? And so
Okay.
you see different like repetitive numbers are also a way that your guides will speak to you. So if you're seeing 222, 333, 111, all of those type of things, you're on the right track, you're on the right path.
Right. And ones it's associated with transformation, is it not? Do I have that?
Yeah, so this is like the 111 is like you're on your journey, you're transforming, you're
Right.
on the path. I think some of them are associated with numbers, some of them associated with like angels sending you different messages. I'm
Right.
not as great with numerology, but
Right. It's interesting though, isn't
yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's
Very
a
cool.
fun thing to play around with, and I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
a lot
Cool.
of people connect those repetitive numbers to signs, and
Yeah.
they're really fun. Like I remember one week I went, like every time I went to the grocery store, it was like 26, 26, 54, 54. I was like, wait a minute, what is, you can't plan that. That's insane.
That's cool.
I was like, okay, what am I missing? What am I
Right.
not seeing? You keep wanting to tell me.
You got to pay attention to the signs. Even if they're not going to be in neon
I
letters
know,
flashing
I
in
was like,
front
it
of
wasn't
you,
neon enough.
but awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, Morgan. So informative, so fun. I again really value your time and enjoyed the reading we had this morning. And I encourage anybody that is feeling like their heart is feeling a little constricted or broken, or feeling that they need that some help with the expansion so they can receive, to reach out to Morgan and inquire about some of the services that she has, and even do, you said that you've got a number of free things on your site as well that people can
Yeah.
be introduced to. So check that out, get to know Morgan. She's a beautiful soul. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much again, Morgan. And Joyful Journeyer, we'll catch you next time.